The autumn sky covered Willow Creek in golden tones as the leaves danced in the wind like whispered secrets. Emily Hart rode her old bike down the gravel road, a basket of wildflowers balanced on the handlebars. The small town was her world, made of scents, colors, and silences that spoke louder than words. Sometimes she felt emotions in colors. Joy was yellow, fear, gray, and love. She didn't know that one yet. Nathan Cole, in contrast, moved through life by numbers and cities, stuck between time zones and boardrooms. He was on his way to close a strategic land deal, a farm soon to become a luxury resort. For him, Willow Creek was just another dot on the map, a transaction. But that day, destiny flipped the script. Nathan took a back road to see the view, a rare impulse. What he saw was a deer darting into the road. Too late to brake. The car lost control. The world turned to metal, glass, and muffled screams. The black SUV flipped twice and landed in a hidden ditch, invisible from the main road. Emily heard the crash, braked hard, and looked back. An eerie silence followed. The scent of gasoline led her through the sparse woods to a car tipped on its side, smoking. She dropped her flowers and ran toward the passenger side without hesitation. A man was inside, unconscious, blood on his forehead. Seatbelt stuck. "Wake up, please," she whispered, trembling. Nathan opened his eyes for a second, blurry. All he saw was a girl with brown eyes, full of urgency and calm. The car creaked. A dry crack warning time was almost up. Emily forced open the back door, unlocked the seat and with effort, pulled him out and dragged him to safety. 5 seconds later, the vehicle burst into a brief, violent flame. She collapsed next to him, gasping, hands shaking. He opened his eyes again and murmured, "Are you real?" "More real than that car now," she replied with a soft smile. A farmer who heard the crash called an ambulance. Emily stayed with him until they arrived. At the local hospital, Nathan woke up with a bandage on his head and a strange feeling in his chest. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about emails or stocks. He wanted to know about her. Name was written on a chart, Emily Hart. The flower shop girl, they said. The next day, he showed up at the shop, still limping. She was arranging lavender in a display. When she saw him, her eyes turned sepia, the color she felt when she didn't know what to feel. "You came?" she said, surprised. "I figured I owed you at least a thank you. And this." He pulled a crushed flower from his pocket. Emily laughed softly. "That was part of an arrangement. Now it's a symbol." Their conversation flowed as if they had known each other for years, but they didn't know why. Nathan found it strange, familiar, like déjà vu in slow motion. In the days that followed, he postponed his investor meetings. Something kept him there. Emily showed him the town, the wooden bridge, the tea house, the butterfly meadow. And the more time they spent together, the more Nathan caught himself smiling without knowing why. In the flower shop, he asked, "Do you always feel people this deeply?" "Sometimes. I see colors when I talk to someone. With you it's blue and silver. Blue when you're drifting, silver when you try to stay." He had never heard anything so vulnerable, and that made it real. One night under the stars, Emily said, "You're carrying something that wants to scream, but you don't know what yet." Nathan swallowed hard. It was true, he held everything in always. She touched his wrist and noticed the broken watch he still wore. That watch. I've seen one just like it. It was fixed by my grandfather. "Years ago?" Nathan paused. His breath caught for a moment. "He fixed it for me. When I was 11, I spent a summer here, but I don't remember much." Emily furrowed her brow. She also had a vague memory of a city boy who drew maps and hated caterpillars. "You're not Nate, are you?" she asked cautiously. The world seemed to stop. Nathan gave a small smile. "I hated caterpillars." They both laughed, and for a moment time made sense. The realization that Nathan was Nate from that childhood summer made Emily lose her breath for a moment. She remembered now. Fair's quiet boy with curious eyes who ran from bees but laughed at her drawings. The summer when they built a secret fort behind the orchard, and buried a box with their treasures. "You drew a map of that place," she said. "Do you remember?" Nathan squinted, trying to pull the memory. "I used to draw maps for everything, but that one..." Something inside him stirred, like the box was still there. And maybe something else buried with it. Over the next few days, he began to have flashes, blurred memories, fragments of a time that felt dreamlike. Meanwhile, his investors in New York were pressuring for answers. The deal had to move forward. But Nathan was torn between duty and something deeper, something he had never felt in the business world: belonging. Emily was confused too. She was afraid of getting attached, afraid he'd leave like everyone else. Still, she took him to the old orchard, where a white-barked tree still marked the spot of the fort. They dug together, and to their surprise, the box was still there. Inside were childhood letters, colorful pebbles, a bracelet made of string, and a drawing of a watch. Nathan picked it up with trembling hands. It was the same watch he wore. Emily looked into his eyes. "You promised you'd come back for it." He laughed, moved. "And you told me you'd leave the flowers waiting." There, in the middle of that field, they looked at each other as if for the first time they were whole. But peace never stays long when fate is involved. That very night, Emily got a call. Her flower shop had been notified for eviction. A new investor had bought the block and planned to build a shopping center. Emily froze. The shop was still under her late mother's name, paperwork she had never updated. The next day, Nathan received a full report from his team in New York. He was the buyer of that land package. The shock hit like a punch. He didn't know, not like this. The deal had included Willow Creek as part of a rural expansion project. Emily found out on her own. She saw his name on the legal documents. And she didn't want to hear excuses. "You lied to me this whole time?" she asked, eyes filling with tears. "No, I swear I didn't know." He tried to explain, but she was no longer listening. The whole town found out, and suddenly, the city man became the villain. Emily pulled away, returned to the fields, quiet, closed. Nathan, for the first time, felt powerless before something money couldn't fix. He tried sending flowers, letters. Nothing seemed to reach her world, until one day, while going through the project files, he found something buried, a name, Howard Lancaster, the former landowner and Emily's grandfather, and a clause, property rights would revert to the Lancaster family if commercial use failed. Nathan saw it as a chance, but also as a sign. He cancelled the project, lost millions, and for the first time didn't care. He went to the shop, now nearly empty, and found her packing flowers. "I let the project go," he said, "not out of guilt, but because I finally understood what truly matters." Emily didn't reply, but something in her eyes softened, a pale green hue like forgiveness taking root. "Do you remember when I told you about the colors I feel in people?" she said. He nodded slowly. "Today, when you walked in, it was golden, like a sunrise after a long night." Nathan took a deep breath. "I thought I'd lose everything by letting go, but I realized I was finally gaining." She smiled, for the first time in days, and in that moment, he understood what it meant to love without expecting anything back. But one more piece was missing. That night, Emily dreamed of a scene, a bridge, a promise, and the sound of children laughing. She woke up with her heart racing, and one phrase echoing, "When the bridge touches the water, we'll meet again." Then she remembered they hadn't said goodbye that summer. They made a promise, and fate had simply kept it. The next morning, she went to the old bridge, and he was already there waiting, as if time had taught him how to love patiently. And when their eyes met, there was no more doubt. They had found each other again, and now they knew why. The reunion on the bridge was quiet, but full of meanings that words could never explain. Emily walked slowly toward Nathan, her heart beating like it did on those long-lost summer mornings. "You remembered the promise," she whispered. "It was the only true sound in my head for days," he replied, voice tight with emotion. They sat on the edge of the bridge like kids waiting for the world to slow down. The river flowed below, reflecting the orange sky as if time itself was trying to understand that moment. Emily picked up a pebble and tossed it into the water. "It still scares me, you know. Us?" "Why?" he asked, turning to her. "Because it's too big to be a coincidence, but too fragile to feel safe." Nathan nodded. He felt it too, like their lives were tied by an invisible, delicate thread. In the following days, they began to see each other again, not like before, with more care, more truth. Nathan got to know her daily life, the flower shop customers, the old man who played violin in the square. Emily began to understand the weight he carried, the loneliness masked by success, the silence money never filled. One evening, Nathan surprised her with dinner by candlelight, in the greenhouse. He had decorated the space with her favorite flowers, sunflowers and lavender. "This is where you breathe. I want to learn how to breathe with you," he said. Emily smiled through watery eyes. "You have a beautiful soul." Nathan, it was just buried. They kissed with the tenderness of people who don't want to damage what took so long to find. The town slowly started to change its view of him. Actions spoke louder than headlines. But then, the second twist arrived without warning. A journalist showed up in Willow Creek, digging into corporate scandals, and he uncovered a secret buried in Nathan's past. The watch he wore had once been part of an illegal transaction within his company. The man responsible, David Hart, Emily's uncle. Emily was shocked. She had no idea her uncle ever worked in New York. The scandal hit Nathan hard, even though he was a victim. The media told a different story. Emily began to wonder, was it all just coincidence? Or did he come here knowing something? Nathan came to her with documents in hand. "I had no idea who you were that day. All I know is you saved me." "But why did the watch come back now?" she asked, eyes full of fear. He answered firmly, "Because it's the missing piece. Because I needed to come back here to understand my past and to find you." Still, Emily pulled away. She needed time and silence. Nathan respected that, but returned to the bridge every day, same time, like someone waiting for time to understand. Meanwhile, Emily dug through old family boxes, trying to figure out what her uncle had hidden. She found a letter, handwritten and addressed to the boy with the broken watch. "If you're reading this, then my mistake has reached you. I'm sorry. Your watch was never meant to be part of this." The letter explained everything. David had stolen the watch from a donation Nathan's mother made, tried to sell it, then regretted it. Emily's grandfather repaired it and returned it anonymously. But the watch had become a silent symbol of guilt. Emily cried as she read it, and she understood. Nathan wasn't a consequence of the mistake. He was the healing time had prepared. The next morning, she went to the bridge. He was already there. "I'm sorry I doubted you," she said, holding the letter. "You had every right." "But thank you for coming back," he replied, relieved. She handed him the letter. "Your watch was fixed by the man who taught me how to see beauty in broken things. He..." Read it in silence, then held her hand. "Now I know why it never worked again. It was waiting for this moment." Time stopped being something that separated them. It became what united them. They started walking together again, with more truth, more maturity. Emily realized that true love doesn't mean no conflict, but choosing each other through it. And Nathan learned that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the bridge between two whole hearts. Together, they started planning a new flower shop. With a greenhouse, event space, and garden classes for kids, the town rallied behind them. The project united generations like the roots of an old oak tree, but the greatest gesture was still to come. And it would begin with an unexpected invitation, sealed with a sprig of lavender. The invitation arrived on a cold morning, tied with a blue ribbon and sealed with a sprig of lavender. Emily opened it with trembling hands, an invitation to a gala in New York, hosted by Nathan's company. Inside was a handwritten note. "You saved me when I was lost. Now I want the world to meet the one who saved me." Emily hesitated. New York was the opposite of Willow Creek, loud, demanding, full of masks. But something inside told her to go. Not for him, for herself, For the first time in years, she felt part of something bigger, like her story was ready to bloom in new soil. Nathan greeted her with the smile of a man holding the world, but only wanting to hold her. She wore a simple dress, radiant. He a dark suit with a lavender pin. At the event, entrepreneurs, politicians, and influencers surrounded Nathan, but his eyes searched only for hers. Emily felt the weight of curious glances, the small-town girl now in the spotlight. During his speech, Nathan did the unexpected. He paused the agenda, held the mic, and said, "Before we talk numbers, I want to talk about fate." The room fell silent. Months ago, I was just another businessman. Then, I crashed. Murmurs spread. The story had surfaced, but no one knew the details. In that wreck, I was pulled out by someone who didn't know who I was. She asked for nothing. She just felt. His eyes found hers. She didn't just save my life, she reminded me that the real value lies in what can't be bought. The room held its breath. Emily's heart pounded. "So tonight I want you to meet the woman who taught me love isn't weakness, it's strength." He extended his hand and Emily slowly walked toward him through soft applause. She was shaking, not with fear, but with the weight of that moment. After the event, they danced under golden lights, surrounded by strangers who now saw the unseen. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered, "but I wanted the world to know you like I do." That night he showed her his apartment, not grand, but peaceful, full of plants and old photographs. "This is the part of me no one sees," he said, "the part you woke up." In the days that followed, they lived between two worlds, Willow Creek and New York. But a dilemma soon appeared. A global investor offered Nathan a major project, Dubai, London, Tokyo. It was the biggest deal of his career, but required him to move away for good. Emily listened quietly, hiding her fear. "I don't want to lose you again," she said, "and I don't want a future without you." The tension between freedom and love tightened. Nathan proposed solutions, short trips, shared bases, remote deals, but the project required constant presence. Willow Creek wouldn't fit. Emily returned home to think. They didn't fight, but they didn't decide. Days passed without messages. Silence spoke louder than words. Emily tended her flowers without joy. The town noticed her quiet sorrow. Nathan stared at his phone like waiting for a life to begin. Then came a box. No sender. Inside, a dried lavender. And the childhood fort map he understood instantly. A memory and a call. That night he drove for hours to Willow Creek. Emily waited by the orchard where it all began. "You don't have to choose between the world and love," she said. "But you must know what makes your heart beat." He pulled out a small box, not a ring, the fixed watch ticking. "My time starts here, with you." She smiled, tears shining. "Then let's begin. On our time." The watch ticked softly. Between them, not counting minutes but moments they chose to share. The sound of the ticking watch was more than just seconds passing. It was fate whispering, "You've arrived where you were always meant to be." Emily held the watch gently, watching the hands move like she was finally seeing time move forward again. "I never thought something broken could teach me so much about fixing what really matters," she said, eyes glistening. Nathan smiled. "Maybe because we were waiting for the right moment to work again." At peace, he declined the global offer. He chose Willow Creek, not as an escape, but as a return. Together, they launched a new project, Lavender House, a blend of flower shop, cafe, and community center. The town embraced it like welcoming home a soul that had wandered too far. Children ran through flower beds, elders played guitar on Sundays, and tourists came not just for the shop, but the story behind it. Emily taught floral arrangement and nature-inspired art to locals and visitors. Nathan offered simple business classes to young entrepreneurs, sharing how success without meaning is hollow. In one of those classes, he said, "The best investment I ever made was in something money can't buy." Truth between two hearts. The room fell silent. Those words were worth more than any stock. Slowly, the shop her mother once ran became a symbol of new beginnings. The orchard was restored. The old trees bloomed stronger than ever. Behind the orchard, the childhood fort was rebuilt, with new, Boards, but the same soul. Emily placed the old memory box inside, now with letters, photo, and the working watch. So that someday someone will know even what's lost can be found again, she whispered. Nathan proposed not during a fancy dinner, but on the bridge where she forgave him. He gave her a handmade ring with a tiny lavender engraving. She said yes before he finished speaking. They married in the butterfly field with few guests and infinite meaning. During their vows, Nathan said, "You taught me that love doesn't begin when things are perfect, but when we choose to stay in the middle of the storm." Emily replied, "And you showed me that the right love never rushes, it waits, it returns, it blooms." When they kissed, the wind scattered petals across the hills, as if nature itself was celebrating. At the end of the ceremony, guests received small envelopes with lavender seeds. Plant them anywhere. And remember, what's cared for with a love always blooms. Their story inspired the town, and later the internet after a video of Nathan's speech went viral. But fame didn't change them. It only expanded what they could do. They helped other small towns restore abandoned spaces, planting stories in every corner. Years later, they founded a non-profit in Emily's mother's name, supporting rural women entrepreneurs. Nathan never returned to Wall Street, but mentored young people who wanted more than status. Emily kept seeing emotions in colors, and with him, she discovered new shades she never imagined. On quiet mornings, they drank coffee in the garden, in silence, together, and that was enough. On one anniversary, Nathan surprised her. He took her to the field where it all began. There stood a wooden sign that read, "A life bloomed here because two people chose not to run from the truth," Emily cried. "Life taught me to wait, but you taught me how it feels to be found," he smiled. "And you taught me to feel, to stop, to stay." They buried a new memory box, just like before. This time with letters, dried flowers, and one note: "If you find this, know there's no such thing as coincidence, only courage to begin again." The sun set slowly that day, painting the sky golden, the color Emily saw when love was complete. Time passed. Wrinkles came, but their eyes stayed the same, full of story, silence, and lavender. One day, a child found the box, read the letters, smiled. It was their granddaughter. And just like that, the story began again. Because real love has no end. It becomes roots, it becomes blooms, it becomes bridges, it becomes memory in every touch, every glance, every flower left on a porch. And even when they were no longer there, lavender still grew in the fields, whispering to the wind. They lived, and they taught the world that love changes everything, even when it hurts, even when it's uncertain, because love that blooms in its own time is never lost. It simply waits to be found.